Yes. Yo, welcome to Last Call Reacts, man. This is where I step up here maybe once a week and go over some things. I'm already laughing on this one because it's kind of funny, but it shouldn't even be that funny when you think of it. Before I jump ahead, just a couple good things with this is at least this man had the resources to do what he's doing. And the one that I'm talking about here is the one and only Afroman of Because I Got High fame. And this thing keeps bouncing around online and some articles and stuff like that. So yeah, every time I keep digging into it, there's just more entertaining. But the premise of this thing is not exactly entertaining. It's actually a little bit disturbing. But I want to take you through this. And there is a site that actually, as you try to gather up some of the information and stuff, you're like, oh, this guy's saying everything I want to say, but he's just doing it probably a lot better than I want to say it. So I'm going to use a couple resources in this as well. And before I do, welcome. This is Last Call Reacts. As I said, we go through, something floating around the interwebs about once a week, something that might interest me, something serious, sometimes not so serious, and just give a little bit of insight onto what it is that I might find interesting or something that we should be made aware of in certain cases and stuff. And in this case, I want to go into the Afroman saga as it is. And I found a site that actually, this guy does a good job. As you see there on the screen, it's called Legal Mindset. And I've never heard of this guy. I don't think I've heard of this guy before this, but he does a good little entertaining roundup of what this information is and what it's about. So I want to give him a little opportunity to go through this. Shout out to Legal Mindset. And I will say, fair use before I start talking about this thing here. So let me go back, find this, and boom, stickety boom. Here we go.
Afroman is in an absolutely hilarious case with the Adams County Sheriff's Department in what is a battle between First Amendment protections and what is defamatory. We're going to get that today on The Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney, and this is a Fast Facts video, the quick and dirty version of the latest in legal news. So for those of you that may not know, the defendant in this case is, of course, one Afroman, Joseph Edgar Foreman, of the famous hit back in the day of Because I Got High. Well, in this case, he is now getting in it with the Adams County Sheriff over a botched raid on his house. And to introduce them, they are the plaintiffs here in the parody depiction as Afroman shows you in his video, which we're going to watch a little bit of later in this segment. And these sheriffs are mad based on these depictions that he has made of them. Some of them, such as Officer Poundcake over here, another one's a hunchback. They've got all sorts of different depictions, some of them a little bit worse than others. And that's why they ended up in court with him today. Now, rapper Afroman has a house in Adams County, and this house was raided based on a tip of narcotics and kidnapping. They had some informant that said, hey, there's narcotics, there's kidnapping victims. And the kidnapping was based on a quote unquote dungeon basement that he had allegedly. And so they went in and got this warrant from a judge.
All right,
and went into his place.
Let's not jump right over. Let's not skip over that. All right, very serious charges. We know, based on appearance or what we think somebody's persona or online or their fame. And we want to like some of these people. All right. For those of you maybe in the younger category, don't remember how hype Afroman's track was Because I Got High. It was everywhere, and everybody kind of liked the song everywhere that you went. Just one of those things that was in the air. I forgot. It seemed like early 2000s, and I mean like 2000s to 00 to 2010 sort of deal. It was really popular and everything. So he added a lot of comedy to his stuff. He had a distinct voice, a little bit like Humpty Hump, and people like this stuff wherever you went, wherever you put it on, it was just that sort of thing. But these charges that he got, very serious, right? I saw a documentary on Afroman, I don't know, maybe a few years ago or so, just kind of like checking out his life, his I don't want to say simple life, but for somebody who made it in the music industry and stuff, seems pretty down to earth, pretty simple with the stuff where he chose to live, and what he does on a daily basis as well. Very respectable. It seemed very cool. But of course, you could be anything you want to be, depending on how you want to present yourself online and everything. But these charges, so they're saying an inside tip that sex trafficking and this and that and cages and, like the guy said, dungeon style and all that sort of stuff. People were reporting, or their source reported this sort of stuff. So based on these reports, the police came in, and not even in a way that they had. See, I don't understand the raids. For those of you that maybe know a little bit about LA or some of the early 80s stuff, when the law gave basic clearance to be able to kick down doors in the name of justice, and some of these police, I believe they take pride in not basically being nice about anything, being as dirty and grimy and disrespectful as they possibly can, just kicking in doors, obviously not wiping their feet, just tracking in dirt and mud in your house. We hear that by the time, even when you got to get past a gate before you even get into the house, and they busted down the gate, busted down the front door. All right. And these guys came in mad aggressive, guns drawn and stuff. I hate that I don't know what I can pronounce on here or say on here. Even an AR and all that shit. Apparently his kids were home. I'm not sure the ages. I think we're going to find out in this video over here too. But totally, they didn't find anything. They didn't find what they were hoping to find, when they came in all SWAT style, to bring down a kingpin sort of deal. They didn't find anything. None of the things that they say warranted the breaking in and the treatment of the property like this, they didn't find any of that stuff. And they disrespected the house, and I guess in terms of retaliation, or what's within the right of the average citizen, is of course freedom of speech. So Afroman used that in his, reply, some simple questions. And he made some, what people would say today, called diss tracks, which are just basically installments on different parts about what the raid was about, and some of the officers as well. Well, fast forward a little bit, the police are insulted, claiming hurt. I don't want to give some of the stuff away. I'm just going to play this. I'm going to skip a little bit and then give some of my opinion on that, which I already have been. And the police are suing Afroman for quote unquote putting them out there like that. So let's continue with this.
While he was not there. He was in Chicago at the time. Now his wife was present, and he did have security cameras. So there's footage from those security cameras, which he uses later in parody videos. And that's really the subject of this today. But when they went in there during that search, not only did they find nothing, there were no kidnapping victims, there was no narcotics, there was no, tons and tons of drugs, of anything, marijuana, cocaine, whatever. None of that stuff. But they smashed up his front door, his front gate. They searched his entire house. They took cash, and there's a big dispute about the amount of cash they took. Because according to Afroman, $400 is missing. They said they gave him back. It was about 5,400 according to Afroman, 5,000 according to them. According to their internal investigation, they did not misplace any cash. But once again, this is a situation, if you know the police situation with cash. Cash is very easily palmed or easily taken, and oftentimes there are huge corruption issues when it comes to cash. This can come up in, for example, drug cases where people are dealing with a lot of cash and just the cash disappears or the cash goes to fund the county, etc., or just slides off. But that cash is a big subject of debate here because Afroman in his position thinks they stole that money. So there was no actual findings at all. It was
all right. We know that already.
Brian Newland, Sean, Lisa, all through this. Officer Pound Cake, because the guy looked. There's Brian Newland, Sean, Lisa channel. You can see these over here, and he has almost 1 million subscribers here, probably getting a lot more recently. But all of these videos here, a lot of them go through individual officers like Officer Randy Walters, Brian Newland, Sean, Lisa, all through this. Officer Pound Cake, because the guy looked at he was kind of a little bit more of a husky individual, and he was looking at that cake like he was real hungry. He goes through a lot of these different videos and mocks them individually. But what we're going to review today is one video where he reviews the raid kind of footage as a whole, and it goes over several of the officers, and it kind of explains when you see this video in the portion I'm going to show you why they are suing. So we're going to go break that down step by step here right now. So here is the video. It's titled "The Batter Ram Hymn of the Police Whistleblower" by Afroman. And of course, you can check this out on his channel. Like you see, I'll put that link in the description. But we're going to go and break this down, and I'll show you the points at which I think the defamation is there and the clear parody. Of course, I think the depictions here, probably parody. The only ones that might be a little bit more troublesome are when you see, hey, there's a prison uniform. So, okay, is this guy in a prison? And this individual over here, I think we're pretty clear about what this accusation is right here, which if you make that sort of accusation, you better be pretty on point. Let's continue. Very catchy, by the way. And a point matter, I do like his suit.
Mine eyes seen the corruption of the ad.
So starting off here, showing them what he alleges as stealing cash. So one of the big things is calling them thieves. Calling someone a thief is potentially defamatory. Now, under his opinion, that cash was counted wrong.
Hey, if the cap fits, right?
May have said that was clear. But that's a big subject for debate and one of the subjects of the case.
Some county cops stealing money, stealing cake when they trap.
And they have admitted to taking the money and just calling it an error, a miscalculation.
Security cameras. So it's very possible he did take a slice of the delicious lemon pound cake at subject here.
Afroman is gonna screw ya. My proof's on the internet.
He did let all the footage out on the internet. So all that's out there, and all of that is permissible because that's his home surveillance footage. Police have no reasonable expectation of privacy in that footage whatsoever.
Mine eyes have seen informants get busted with felonies.
So he better be pretty sure about that. But seeing that he pulled this up right here and showing her booking, it assumes he's telling the truth about that. So if that's true, if this informant actually was booked for a felony, that's not defamation, right? That's straight up just the truth.
Tell the cops
that's their one in the pocket that they got. I'm not going to play all of this. If you do want a good laugh or just to know a little, the main part about this is for some reason they accused him. They had an informant. It seems very personal. And then which led to the dogs, the police coming out and busting down the doors and all that stuff there you see in there, busting that door down, busting down the gate and everything like that. And just if you know anything about police informants, you can't always, you could never really relate on it because they've already been compromised for some reason. And what they're doing, whatever they're doing to get off of their back, you know, they're trying to show and prove for the police department also.
The sexual depiction of her and that depiction. So that one is one that's more amorphous. That's one that, especially if you look at it in the context of rap music, in the context of artistic speech, that's something very, very common.
Right,
so it's vandalization, but that's also his perspective looking at what they did to his property. So
basically what this guy is doing, of course, as you could see from a lawyer's perspective, you know, what is actually defamation? Because if I go back here and I look at the case, I'm sorry, I just got a few windows open. I should have had a little marker on that one. All right. they're charging Afroman for some new distress that they got, some things that now they have to go through. You would see Afroman reply to a lot of these charges as there's nothing worse than what you did to me. And anything I could do, the proof is already out there, as you guys saw, for people to evaluate and make a judgment on their own. But there's a whole bunch of weirdness with
some
this.
information on this, but that is one that you drop the hard P. You drop that accusation, you better be able to back that up, right? Or have some reasonable basis for backing that up. But I would assume, based on showing that jumpsuit and in other videos which I've watched, he's got people testifying as to these people's character, etc. So based on those things combined, but that's one we hear on the internet a whole lot. We hear it being dropped, and that is per se defamatory. But if you've got truthful statement, if you've got truth behind that, and you're able to back that up, then it might fly, right? But that's one of the reasons that he's probably in court. The assumption is he's got something to back that up, and he's going to show that in court. So you guys now see the spiciest pieces of the accusations. You've got accusations of theft. You've got accusations of deviant behavior, criminal records. So that's why this thing is proceeding. So the case law is pretty clear, once again, that officers have no expectation of privacy when they're conducting raids. That is not something that they can expect to remain private. And the surveillance footage can be freely used. So when the officers sued, they sued for a whole basket of things: defamation, false light, invasion of privacy, right of publicity, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Now, as public officials, they have the duty to prove malice. So just like public figures, like internet figures or celebrities or people on the news, they're treated with the same higher standard of having to prove actual malice, which is very, very difficult. Now, because of that, and because of the case law, the judge dismissed outright the right of publicity and commercial use claims. So about half the claims were kind of knocked out, but they kept the defamation, false light, and some of the invasion of privacy claims and allowed those to proceed to trial. This is one where, once again, it's civil court and this is not criminal, so the standard is a bit lower. I think if you thought about this in a criminal sense with like beyond a reasonable doubt, then there'd be no chance at all, right? But on some of them where you have to kind of go into more of the facts, you have to go into more of the details. Okay, well, what information did you have to lead you to believe that this was true? You can see how this may have ended up in court. And the trial's going on right now in Adams County. So we're going to be following that as it develops.
All right. And it is, the trial is going on right now. And what a spectacle it is. And what an embarrassment this is for people coming in there on how disgruntled they are just about anything about what he said. But you can't find that he did anything wrong. In court, he actually points out the hypocrisy. You guys busted down my door. It probably could have rang the doorbell. This is what I don't understand about that kind of stuff. And maybe because of the nature of the supposed information that they got, they felt like they had to come in there as though they were going to rescue people and all of that. But it puts everything into question, right? How they gather their information, who they gather their information from, and then how they go about executing these warrants in the first place, and then their conduct when they're on the property. I don't like even people going in my house for repairs and stuff like that. If I'm at work or I can't be there, I will grant access to people, but I generally don't like it, as I'm sure you wouldn't like it, because somebody's in your home, for something, somebody's around your stuff. That's your place, man. That's your place of safety and comfort and gathering. And then here these guys just come in looking at stuff. I'm surprised with that pound cake thing that he didn't just like take a swipe with his finger, lick his finger, then put the thing back on and just disregard the food or go through the refrigerator and shit like that too. Like, it's just common decency and respect. And they'll only do that to certain people in certain people's home because it comes out of a jealousy. It comes out of an anger of still putting you in your place. I found this whole thing ridiculous. Afroman hasn't been in the spotlight. I haven't even looked at the year of the song, but I even bought it on my my Apple iTunes, because it was just one of those songs that everybody wanted to hear at one point. And definitely, there should be a countersue case of being sued for this nonsense. This is tax dollars where people are paying for corruption, for abusive use of the police force and targeting. So good for Afroman for doing this and maybe making a little bit of a statement of this as well, but most importantly exposing the nonsense. What do you think of this? Is this all right with you? Do the police have a right to do this? Is Afroman doing the right thing by putting these songs out? I mean, it is the information age, right? It is a social media thing. Why not? I wouldn't have known about it if these songs and all of that weren't out, if the offense weren't out. So I say power to Afroman doing his thing, having his resources, being a clean dude, putting this out there and using the very same law, suing the very same people who affected his rights, his civil rights. What say you? This has been Last Call Reacts. Thanks for joining me, man. Look out for one of these at least once a week. Check out my live on Fridays at 9 p.m. with Josephine the Chattervis, like we always do about this time. Drop a comment, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you around, man. Thank you, y'all.